Hello everyone, welcome back to the Math UMS class, week number 16. Today we are going to have the second lesson in the topic of Cartesian plane. You remember the previous lesson? I hope you do because we are going to need it in today's lesson. Okay, so let's begin. Lesson number 2, Cartesian plane. In this lesson, we will focus on line equation forms. The first, in the previous lesson, you have learned how to sketch a line when you are given an equation that determines the line. The task of today's lesson is the reverse. We will try to create the equation of the line given some information of that line. And from the most basic approach, we will try to create the equation for a line when we are given the point and the gradient of a line. This is called the point gradient form of a line. So a line can be determined by two factors. First is a point on that line. For example, I will call that M with the coordinates xm and ym, like that. And the gradient of the line is the second factor, and I will call that A as an example. So we are given a line with a point M and the gradient A on it. So our task is to try to create the equation from the two factors. Now, when we are given a point, it means that all the lines must pass through that point. So they won't change the direction of it, but it needs to pass through the line, through the point, sorry. I will repeat that again. So the gradient will be the factor that decide where to stop while the line keeps spinning around the point. So when we have the correct gradient, then we will have the correct line. And now let x and y be the general point of the point on the line. We can consider that a line is nothing but a collection of infinitely many points that are aligned together. So uh, let call the x and y the general point of the line. So the point x and y must together with the point M create a slope A. A is the given gradient. So according to the formula for the gradient that we have learned in the previous lesson, we can take the y step divided by the x step. Y step is y minus ym, and x step is x minus xm. And because we are trying to make that gradient equal to the given gradient, so we put the expression y minus ym divided by x minus xm equal to a. And by some algebraic transformation, we will get to the equation like this. Y minus ym equals a times x minus xm. This is called the point gradient form. Point gradient, the equation for a line when we are given a point of that line and the gradient of that line. So this is called the point gradient form. The point gradient equation allows us to quickly write the equation of a line. You can see that we don't have to calculate anything. We just have to put the point and the gradient into the positions of the formula. Then we will have the equation. Now, to see how it works, we will consider an example. If the line passes through M12 and has a slope of a equals 2 over 3, so all we need to do is to substitute the information into the formula. Now the point is 1, 2, and the gradient is 2 over 3. So we have y minus 2 divided by x minus 1 must be equal to 2 over 3. And by the transformation, we are going to get an equation. Y minus 2 equals 2 over 3 times x minus 1. And this is the point gradient form of the equation of the line. And you got it? So far, so good? Is it too easy for you? So let's have some practice. Now here, I will give you a picture of a line on the Cartesian plane. And the task is to write the equation of the line. Given that it has a slope of 2 and it passes through the point A, 0 and 1. Now we know the point gradient form, and we know the slope or the gradient or the point that are required. So all we need to do is to substitute AXM and YM into the formula. So we have the equation as y minus 1 equals 2 times x minus 0, and we can simplify it to make y minus 1 equals 2x. And from this equation, we can rearrange the point gradient form into some other forms. And each of the forms will have the specific advantages or disadvantages. And stay with me to the next slide, and we will show you. Here is the equation from the previous slide. Y minus 1 equals 2x. And we can rearrange the terms to make this y equals 2x plus 1. Or we can rearrange the terms to make 2x minus y equals negative 1. This is called the gradient intercept formula because in this form of the equation, we can see immediately the gradient of the line, which is 2 here. The coefficient that is multiplied by x is the gradient of the equation or the gradient of the line. And next, the the other term is the intercept. Actually, it is the y-intercept of the line. Y equals 2x plus 1. You remember the concept of y-intercept. When x is 0, then the value is the y-intercept. And this is called the general form. In the next line, you're gonna see why it is called the general form. Now begin with the gradient intercept. This form allows us to easily see the slope and the y-intercept of the line. And because of that, we can imagine the line more easily when look at this equation. If I give you an equation of the form gradient intercept, then you can picture it based on the slope. You can picture it steep or not so steep, or you can know the y-intercept. It means that you can see directly the intersection of the line with the OY axis. So very easy to imagine a line if you are given the gradient intercept form of the equation. However, it can't describe a vertical line because a vertical line has undefined slope or undefined gradient. So the gradient intercept cannot describe the vertical line. That's why we need the general form. And this form is called the general form because it can describe any equation on the plane. For example, if it is a vertical line like this, we can see that, look at this line here. You can see that the y coordinate doesn't matter as long as the x coordinate is 1, so the point will belong to the line. So all the information needed for the points to belong to the line is that the x coordinate is 1. So the equation for the line is nothing but x equals 1. Very simple, right? In fact, there are two kinds of special lines like this. The first is x equals m. As you can see that it is the vertical line. And the second one is y equals m. And as you can guess, it is a horizontal line. And the value of m whether will decide the position of the line. Okay. Now that is all the information we need. Let's move to the practice section, shall we? The practice with line equations. The first question is to find in gradient intercept form the equation of the line with gradient -3 that passes through 4 and -1. The equation here. Just apply the formula that we have learned in this. Y minus -5 equals -3 times x minus 4, and make some transformation to simplify it. We have y equals -3 plus 7. Y equals -3x plus 7. That will be the gradient intercept form of the equation line. I hope that you all have the same answer. And now is the second problem. Find in gradient intercept form the equation of the line D that is parallel to the line D prime, whose equation is y equals 2x minus 1 and passes through -1, 5. In the previous lesson, we know that two lines are parallel if their gradients are equal. And because D is parallel to D prime, then the gradient of D must be equal to the gradient of D prime. In this case, it is 2. So we have the gradient of the line, we have the point that the line passes through, we can begin forming the equation. The equation is of the form y minus 5 equals 2 times x minus -1, and give it some transformation to get the final form y equals -2x plus 7. Okay, do you have the same answer? Now let's move on to the next one. Yeah, I agree with you. The next question. Determine the equation of the following lines in gradient intercept form and in general form. Now it is given only a line on the plane. So we need to determine the points on the plane so that we can put it into the formula. Now first we determine the gradient or the slope. In order to find the gradient of a line, we need to take 2 points. And you can see that we have 2 nice points here. The point A, -2 and 3. Point B, 0, -1. And by these two numbers, we can calculate the gradient of it as well as the starting point of the line. The gradient is equal to the y step divided by the x step. It is equal to yb minus ya divided by xb minus xa. And that should be equal to a -1 minus 3 divided by 0 minus -2. And it is -4 divided by 2. The result is -2. So this is the gradient of the line, -2. And now we put the gradient and the starting point of the line into the formula for the equation. We will have something like y minus -1 equals -2 times x minus 0. And after having some transformation, we will have the form y equals -2x minus 1. So -1 is the y-intercept of it. You can do it faster when you know the gradient of the line. You look at this. Remember that the y-intercept is the intersection of the line and the y-axis. So by look at the diagram, we can know immediately that the y-intercept is -1. So the point-intercept equation is y equals -2x minus 1 because the -2 here is the slope of the gradient and the -1 here is the y-intercept. And from the uh, from the gradient intercept form, we can easily transform it into the general form 2x plus y equals -1. Have you got it? So again, if you want to determine the equation of a line on the Cartesian plane, you take 2 points to calculate the gradient of it, and then you use the point and the gradient to create the point into the gradient intercept form of the equation. And now, determine the equation of the following lines in gradient intercept form and in general form. Now we have one vertical line and one horizontal line. And as you know that the gradient intercept form cannot describe the vertical or the horizontal line. So in this problem, we can use only the general form of the equation for a line. The D1 is the vertical line, so it has the form x equals m, and the line has the x-intercept 3. It means that m is 3. So we have the form x equals 3. It means that every point that has the x-coordinate 3 falls into the line. And D2 is a horizontal line, so it has the form y equals m. The line has y-intercept is -2, so the equation is y equals -2. Easy, right? Okay, so this is the end of the lesson. I hope that you are find this quite friendly. There's nothing too complicated about this lesson. If you have further questions, don't hesitate to inbox me and ask me any question related to the problem, related to the topic. I will be more than happy to help. And now is some thing to remind you at home. First, you need to review the lesson, practice writing the equation for a line, and complete the quiz, the Google form that is attached with this lesson. And finally, thank you for your attention and enjoy your week. See you next week. Goodbye.